In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to create 2 animations featured in one of Iman Gadzhi's most recent videos within After Effects. I'm going to be showing you exactly what I did so you can learn and apply the basics into your own single projects. Let's start off with this Elon AI animation. Okay, so this is what we're working with. We have an article, and then we have a New York Times logo, and Elon, and a background. Iman Gadzhi's editing team most likely used AI to create that picture. I'm going to show you how you can create something like that. I used OpenArt AI to create that image of Elon Musk. All I did was just put in a prompt, for example, Elon Musk in front of a tech building, things like that. You're going to have to experiment a little bit to see what you like. And of course, we can't recreate that exact same picture that Iman Gadzhi used in his video, but we can get something similar. And we want to create 2 images, one with just the background and one with Elon. We can do this by going over here to background. Just fixing this. And we're just going to remove the background. All right, so there's Elon by himself, and all you're going to have to do is download the image. And now you're just going to Control Z to undo that. You're going to go over here to remover, and you're just going to make a manual brush around Elon. All right, there we go. Now you're going to use the magic erase tool. Just increase the creativity level just a little bit. Remove now. And this is going to remove Elon and replace it with the background. We're going to be using the 3D camera, so we have to make the background larger. So that's why we have to separate Elon from the background. And of course, it kind of removed them, but you might have to tweak it up a little bit. But yeah, the main idea is just get 2 images. The first animation that we're going to create is the article animation. So let's increase the size of this. Just like that much. Let's move this right towards the left. And then for the New York Times, let's decrease the size of this. I think that looks good. Now for the New York Times, we're going to invert this. So let's add the effect invert. Then go to your article. Let's also invert this. Now it's black, but let's go ahead and change the blending mode to screen. That's going to take away the black. Let's make the New York Times a little bit smaller. There we go. Let's line this up a little bit better. Okay, that looks good. Now let's parent link the New York Times to the article text. Okay, for the article text, let's bring up the position. Let's skip about 10 keyframes. Okay, let's set a keyframe right there. Let's go all the way to the very beginning. And let's bring the position a little bit down like this. Now press T on your keyboard, and you're going to set a keyframe at 10 frames. The opacity is going to be at 100. Towards the beginning, it's going to be at 0. This will create this opacity effect. And there you go. Now let's also add the effect Gaussian blur to our article layer. At 10 keyframes, let's set the blurriness to 0, but towards the very beginning, let's set it to something like 30. And there you go. That's going to create this blurry opacity, jumping into the screen text or effect. Okay, now let's press U on your article layer. And let's copy and paste the opacity and the Gaussian blur effects onto the New York Times layer. All right, perfect. Now for the article position, let's make the animation just a little bit more smoother. So let's go ahead and select these keyframes. You're going to press F9. And now you're going to go over here to your graph editor. Okay, let's increase the speed towards the very beginning just a little bit. Let's see how that looks like. Okay, let's move the end position to 20 keyframes. All right, now let's just move all the other keyframes. Let's move them to 20. There you go. Perfect. Now we're going to go over here to your ellipse tool. You're going to go to the rectangle. Let's change the fill to blue. And let's create a small little rectangle over the Twitter text. change the blending mode to something like screen or maybe add. I think add looks better. Let's start the highlight animation somewhere around 104. Let's go ahead and move this. Okay, now we're going to add the effect linear wipe. Change the angle to 270. And let's make this animation last for, let's do 20 keyframes. So let's skip about 20 keyframes by holding Ctrl-Shift and pressing the right key twice. That skips 20 keyframes. Now let's add a keyframe on transition completion. Let's go all the way back to the very beginning. And we're going to increase the percentage of this all the way until it's gone. So that will be somewhere around 88. Okay, now let's take a look at this. Perfect. Hold U on that one layer. Now we're going to ease in these keyframes. Press, hold, and click. And you're going to press F9. Now let's go to the graph editor. Let's go ahead and increase the speed of this. About like this. The speed is going to increase at the very middle of the animation. Towards the end, it's going to slow down. So let's see how that looks like. All right, let's actually move. Let's make the animation a little bit longer. So let's go ahead and just move this around right here. Maybe a little bit longer. Perfect. All right, now let's go ahead and pre-compose the whole article animation. Okay, and let's go ahead and change the blending mode back to screen. And let's add a deep glow effect. Deep glow is a paid effect. That's okay, you don't have to use the deep glow effect. I prefer using the deep glow effect because it just looks better. But After Effects does include their own glow effect, but in my opinion, deep glow just looks so much better. But if you do have the option to buy some effects or plugins, deep glow is one of the ones I will get. Okay, let's just decrease the glow just a little bit. That looks good. Now let's put the article animation right behind Elon. Now let's go ahead and start with the background and the coloring of Elon. So let's go ahead and select new. Let's select an adjustment layer. Let's put it on top of the background. And we're going to add the effect color for color gradients. Okay, now let's go ahead and change the blending mode to multiply. Perfect. So now we want the left side to be red and we want the right side to be blue. So let's go ahead and change the colors. Let's change this to red. Let's do something like, yeah, this blue, let me see. I think this blue is good. Can do like a lighter blue right here. And then for this side, let's change the pink to something more red. Perfect. For Elon, go over here to layer styles, and let's add a gradient overlay. So go over here down to gradient overlay. Let's edit the gradient. The left side is going to be red. And the right side is going to be blue. Go over here to angle and let's change the angle so that way the red is on the left side and the blue is on the right. Now go to blend mode and go ahead and pick soft light. And let's just decrease the opacity just a little bit. Let's do maybe about that much, 70%. Let's go ahead and add a Lumetri color to Elon. Let's just increase the contrast. Just a little bit, not too crazy. The shadows, let's increase it a bit. For the saturation, let's increase the saturation. Yep, looking good. Now let's go ahead and add a 3D camera. You're gonna right click, new, and add a camera. Now we're gonna change all of our layers into 3D layers and make sure the motion blur is also on for all of these layers. So now go over here to 2 views. And you can choose something like, let's do custom view 2. So that way you can see what's going on. All right, so let's go to camera options. Go to transform. And you're going to set a keyframe on point of interest and position at the very beginning. Okay, I think we should move Elon a little bit like right here. Let's add in a zoom animation at the very beginning. So we can do something like 1 second. All right, so let's zoom in a little bit. I think for the article, let's move this a little bit more down. Okay, there you go. That's going to create the zoom animation. Okay, and even though we didn't do anything with point of interest, let's just set a keyframe right here. And let's set a keyframe right here at 2 seconds and 12 frames. And then let's go all the way to the end. Let's move the x-axis of the camera because we want the camera to panel all the way towards the right, like this. So let's see how that looks like. Might look a little bit choppy, but it's okay. We're gonna make it a little bit smoother with using the graph editor. Okay, there's gonna be a zoom out. Then the panel all the way to the right. Okay, it looks good. Now let's highlight all of these keyframes. Press F9 on your keyboard. Let's go to the graph editor. So I don't think we have to do much. Maybe just change the position just a little bit. So let's see. So let's make it speed up towards the middle. Let's see how that looks like. And I think for this, I can increase this so that it speeds up in the middle again. Towards the end, you can increase the speed as well towards the middle. All right, I did some adjustments to the keyframes and the graph, but this is what it should look like. Okay, for our adjustment layer, let's go ahead and increase the scale. There we go. Now the final thing that we have to add is that number animation. So let's go ahead and select our type tool and just type in 0. It really doesn't matter. Just go ahead and type 0 and just scale this up a little bit. So now we're going to add the effect slider control. And I want the animation to start somewhere around, let's do around 2 seconds right here. So now go down here, we're going to go to text and source text, and you're going to press Alt and click on the little stopwatch. Now you're going to copy and paste this expression that is down in the comments section below. All right, perfect. We're going to set a keyframe at 0. And let's go towards, I guess, 5 seconds. That's where we can end the animation. 5 seconds is good. Let's go ahead and type in 40. And now let's add over here, let's add some decimal places. So if you edit this little number right here, that's gonna add decimal places onto your animation. So if you press 1, that's going to add 1 decimal place. If you want to add 2 decimal places, you're going to type in 2. And there you go. Now I want to add a B at the end to represent 40 billion. So the way we do this is you're going to type in plus right here. And you're going to type in a quotation mark with B. And there you go. So now we look at the animation, the B and the decimal places are going to be right there with your number. Okay, so let's just copy and paste the text. And let's get rid of the slider control. Let's get rid of the source text expression. You don't want it on this text, right? So now we're going to add a $sign and a minus symbol. You can also add things to the front of the number, just like we did towards the end, but I couldn't find a way to make just the $sign and the minus symbol red. So we're just going to do it this way. If you guys know another way for me to do this, just let me know down in the comments. Okay, so let's change this to red. All right, looks good. Now let's move this behind Elon. Now parent link the dollar to the main number animation. For the main number animation, press P to bring up the position. And we're just going to animate this. Let's end the animation at 5 seconds. Let's see, it's somewhere around there, but we have to change this to a 3D layer. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, let's change both. Okay, so let's see how it looks. Let's move this a bit more. Okay, we might have to scale this down just a little bit. Okay, that looks good. All right, now let's hold these keyframes. We're going to press F9 to bring up the graph editor. Let's go ahead and edit the speed of these keyframes. Let's see, I want it to be fast in the middle, but slow towards the beginning and the end. Let's see how that looks. Let's do a little bit faster towards the beginning. Okay, let's also make sure to add some motion blur. Okay. And now we're just going to add a mask. And now let's just add a mask. So go to the top, press on the pen tool, and just add a simple mask like this. Press M to bring up your mask. I'm going to change this to subtract. Okay, let's go ahead and edit the mask path. Simply, we're just going to make sure that the number doesn't get cut off. So you see how this gets cut off? So just go ahead and move the mask path back towards Elon. All right, let's see if it gets cut off anymore. Here it gets cut off again. It's cut off right here. All right, we should be good right there. Let's copy the mask onto the same $sign. Yeah, we're gonna have to change the mask path for the $sign. So let's see. Okay, right there's good. Okay, the $sign should be right there. So let's go ahead and move the mask path. It's getting cut off. We don't want it to get cut off right there. Let's just copy the deep glow effect onto our number animation. Let's see what that looks like. Now let's go into this 3D card animation. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to add a name on the left side of the card. So I believe in the video it said Iman Gadzhi. So we're going to do the same thing. Let's decrease this. I think that's a good size, 23, around 23. Okay, let's drag this a little bit over here. And then for the fill, let's make the color similar to like the card. This is a good color right here. Okay, perfect. All right, so now we're just going to parent link this with the card. And now you're going to go over here to the card. You're going to bring up the position values. And let's set a keyframe at the very beginning. And let's set a keyframe at around 1 second. We might change this, but let's just do 1 second for now. Okay, so let's bring down this value. Let's bring the card down and let's make sure to add some motion blur. Okay, so now we can see that our card is animating up like this. Okay, let's actually change this to around 114. Around like 114 is good. Okay, and then I want it to come down just a little bit 1 second later. So let's see. And then that'd be 214. So let's make it come down just a little bit. And then the position for the rest of the card should be good. Now we're going to animate the orientation. So first we have to make this card into a 3D layer and also do the same thing for the text layer. Okay, so now let's see. Let's change the orientation to about, let's flip this a little bit like this. Let's change the X. Let's change the X like this. I think that'd be good. And let's set a keyframe at orientation and at X rotation. So I want the orientation animation to stop before the card is at its final keyframe right here. So let's change the orientation. So I think for the X, let's put it back to 0. Then let's put everything back at 0 for now. But let's add a little bit of, let's make it like this much. That's a good orientation. So let's see how that looks like. I know it looks a little bit choppy right now, but we're going to be using the graph editor to make everything look smooth. All right, and then let's go all the way to the end. Let's set a keyframe at position. The position is going to stay the same, but let's change the orientation. So let's do something like this. Let me see. Straight. Let's make this, let's tilt this a little bit up like that. Let's see how that looks like. Okay, nice. So you see the orientation does change a little bit. Not too much, but we just want to make it a little bit subtle. Okay, so now you're going to hold on all the keyframes. You're going to press F9. And now let's edit our graph. So first, let's edit the position. Okay, so let's make it a speed. Let's make the speed faster in the middle. Let's see how that looks. For this one, let's change this, like, let's see. Let's actually change the position just a little bit longer to make it more subtle. Okay, let's change the orientation just a little bit. Let's make it a little crazier. Just so we can really see that the card kind of flips. There you go. Okay, so now let's add in a CC light sweep onto our card layer. And let's change the angle or the direction. Okay, let's change the shape to smooth. Then let's just mess around with the settings a bit. Okay, that's too much. I think this is good right here. Okay, let's start the animation at 2 seconds. So first, let's select the center. Let's move it right off the card. And then let's go over here and forgot to press the keyframe. Okay, now let's go over here to about 4 seconds. And let's move the center right across the other side of the card. Okay, let's see how that looks. Okay, that looks good. I just think we can let's add some, let's mess around with the graph. Let's see. Yeah, I think if we speed it up towards the end, it's going to look nice. Yeah. Nice. Okay. Now let's create that rotating text around the card. I'm going to type in rewards. What was it? It was rewards and cashback. Okay, let's change this to white. All right, Now let's just copy and paste this about 4 times. Okay, so now go to the ellipse tool and you're going to create a mask. So make sure your text layer is selected and then you create a mask. So let's see. It doesn't have to be perfect right now. We're gonna adjust this anyways, but let's just do something like this. All right, so now we're going to go onto our text layer. We're gonna go down to text, to path options. For the path, we're going to select mask 1. Okay, so make sure that reverse path is off, make sure that perpendicular to path is on, and make sure force alignment is off. It looks a little bit weird right here, so let's go ahead and mess around with the text panel right here towards your right. We want this animation to come in around 2 seconds. Yeah, let's do 2 seconds. Okay, so first we're going to look for an effect. It should be called fade out by characters. Let's go ahead and drag this. Let's go down to the animator 1, and for the range selector, let's mess around with these keyframes. So let's do about, I think it should only take about 10 keyframes to animate in. Let me see. Okay, there, I think that looks good. Let's mess with the graph. Just increase the speed just a little bit. Maybe towards the end. Let me see how that looks. It doesn't have to be perfect. Let's actually move let's move this like right over here. Okay, let's mess around with the graph a bit more. Now go back to your text and you're going to select the path options again. And over here on the first margin, we want the text to be rotating, right? So we're going to go over here to the first margin. We're going to Alt, click the little stopwatch, and we're just going to type in an expression. We're going to type in time, this little asterisk, 25. The first margin option was an option to kind of like rotate the text. So simply by putting in this time expression, it's going to tell the first margin effect to rotate, right? And this is exactly what we want. So we don't have to mess around with any keyframes. All we have to do is put in that time expression. Okay, so let's see how this looks. Okay, that looks pretty good. But let's change the position a little bit. So let's see. Let's bring this position down. Like this. Let's move this right here. Like this. Now we're going to have to change the orientation up a bit. So we're going to have to make it tilt kind of like this. But I think we should, I think we might have to increase the mask a bit. Let's see, let's double click on the mask. Let's increase the size of this. Let's move it like right here. Change the position. Okay, there you go. See how that looks. Okay, so now the final things that we have to add are these little stars that kind of like blink right by the card. So we do this by going over here to your ellipse tool and select the star tool. For the fill, let's make it white. Let's make it a color that's similar to the card, but let's increase it. Let's increase the brightness. So around like right there. Go ahead and make a star. To decrease the number of points in your star, you're just going to hold the down key. And yeah, and then you can also make triangles and add more points and stuff like that. But we only want 4 right now. All right, and then with the left and right keys, we can also mess around with the bulginess of the star. But right there is good for now. Let's go over here to Polystar and go to Polystar Path. Okay, let's for our inner radius, let's decrease this. We kind of want it to be a little bit sharp. For our outer radius, let's decrease this. I think for the inner radius, yeah, the inner radius, we might have to decrease it a little bit more. Let's see, outer roundness. No, it's good like that. Let's see, 0. And then for inner roundness, let's see. Just like that. There you go. For inner roundness, let's increase it. Okay, that looks good. So now let's make this a little bit smaller. Now the anchor point is right over here, but let's move it to the center. So go ahead and press Y on your keyboard. Now you're gonna hold Control. I'm gonna go right here to the top and you're going to double click. And there you go. Okay, so let's see. Let's decrease the size a little bit more by pressing S on your keyboard. Okay, I think that looks good right there. Okay, so now let's animate this. Okay, let's do opacity first. So let's do about 10 keyframes. Go all the way to the very beginning. Let's move the opacity to 0. And then, let me see. Let's move this all the way to 0. Okay, and then let's move the position. Right here's good. Let's go all the way to the beginning. Let's move it down. That way there's this little animation right there. Hold U. And F9. I don't think we're gonna have to do anything with the graph. I think that's already good enough. Okay, so let's parent link the star shape onto our card. All right, so now let's pre-compose this layer. Let's delete this real quick. Okay, so now we're going to add a Gaussian blur. And we're gonna skip 10 keyframes. We're gonna set a keyframe. Let's see, for this one, let's put the blurriness at around 3. And then in the beginning, let's change this to around 30. Let's see how that looks. I think we can do 20. All right, so now let's parent link this to our card. See how that looks like. Cool. So now because we parent linked our star to our card layer, the little star is gonna have the same movement as the card. Because you see over here, it's floating a little bit, and yeah. Okay, so now let's duplicate the star layer. Yeah, let's move the first layer somewhere over here. Okay, I want this one to show up first. So we're gonna move this one right over here. Let's scale it down just a little bit. Just like that much. Okay, skip 10 keyframes. Now you're gonna we want this one to be a little bit more blurry. So let's do something like 7 maybe. Okay, and then after this one, the one on top is going to show up. So for this one, let's move this one over here. For the blurriness, let's do just about let's do like 4. Okay, so let's see how that looks. Okay, and then we just have to make sure, okay, they're already paired to the card. So that looks good. Thank you guys so much for watching. The project files and everything else that you need is going to be down in the description below. And make sure to sign up for my newsletter so you don't miss out on any of my free products. And thank you for watching.